history, apologetics, and current events. From the housetops, coming up next.
The Korean War lasted from June 1950 to July 1953. There is a story about a young Marine named Michael who wrote a letter home to his mother while he was in the hospital after having been wounded in Korea in 1950. The Marine's letter told of a supernatural encounter which saved his life. It was reported that in 1951, the letter came to the attention of Father Walter Moldy, a Navy chaplain, who read it before 5,000 Marines at a San Diego naval base. The chaplain had talked to the young man, to his mother, and to the sergeant in charge of the patrol, and was convinced of the story's veracity. Here's the letter. Dear Mom, I'm writing to you from a hospital bed. Don't worry, Mom, I'm okay. I was wounded, but the doctor says that I will be up in no time. But that's not what I have to tell you, Mom. Something happened to me that I don't dare tell anyone else for fear of their disbelief. But I have to tell you, the one person I can confide in, though even you may find it hard to believe. You remember the prayer to St. Michael that you taught me to pray when I was little. Michael, Michael of the morning. Before I left home for Korea, you urged me to remember this prayer before any confrontation with the enemy. But you really didn't have to remind me, Mom. I have always prayed it, and when I got to Korea, I sometimes said it a couple of times a day while marching or resting. Well, one day we were told to move forward to scout for commies. It was a really cold day. As I was walking along, I perceived another fellow walking beside me, and I looked to see who it was. He was a big fellow, a Marine about 6'4", and built proportionally. Funny, but I didn't know him, and I thought I knew everyone in my unit. I was glad to have the company and broke the silence between us. Chilly day, isn't it? Then I chuckled because suddenly it seemed absurd to talk about the weather when we were advancing to meet the enemy. He chuckled too, softly. I thought I knew everyone in my unit, I continued, but I have never seen you before. No, he agreed. I have just joined. The name is Michael. Oh, really? That's my name too. I know, the Marine said. Michael, Michael of the morning. Mom, I was really surprised that he knew about my prayer, but I had taught it to many of the other guys, so I supposed that the newcomer must have picked it up from someone else. As a matter of fact, it had gotten around to the extent that some of the fellows were calling me St. Michael. Then, out of the blue, Michael said, "There's going to be trouble ahead." I wondered how he could know that. I was breathing hard from the march, and my breath hit the cold air like dense clouds of fog. Michael seemed to be in top shape because I couldn't see his breath at all. Just then it started to snow heavily, and soon it was so dense I could no longer see or hear the rest of my unit. I got a little scared and yelled, "Michael!" and heard his voice in my ear, "It's going to clear up soon." Then, just a short distance ahead of us, like so many dreadful realities, were 7 communists, looking rather comical in their funny hats, but there was nothing funny about them now. Their guns were steady and pointed straight in our direction. "Down, Michael!" I yelled as I dove for cover. Even as I was hitting the ground, I looked up and saw Michael still standing, as if paralyzed by fear, or so I thought at the time. Bullets were spurting all over the place, and Mom, there was no way those commies could have missed at that short distance. I jumped up to pull him down, and then I was hit. The pain was like a hot fire in my chest, and as I fell, my head swooned, and I remember thinking, I must be dying. Someone was laying me down. Strong arms were holding me and laying me gently on the snow. Through the daze, I opened my eyes, and the sun seemed to blaze in my eyes. Michael was standing still, and there was a terrible splendor in his face. Suddenly he seemed to glow like the sun, the splendor increasing intensely around him like the wings of an angel. As I slipped into unconsciousness, I saw that Michael held a sword in his hand, and it flashed like a million lights. Later on, when I woke up, the rest of the guys came to see me with the sergeant. "How did you do it, son?" he asked me. "Where's Michael?" I asked in reply. "Michael who?" The sergeant seemed puzzled. "Michael, the big Marine walking with me right up to the last moment. I saw him there as I fell." "Son," the sergeant said gravely, "you're the only Michael in my unit. I handpicked all you fellows, and there's only one Michael, you. And son, you weren't walking with anyone. I was watching you because you were too far off from us, and I was worried. Now tell me, son, he repeated, how did you do it? It was the second time he had asked me that, and I found it irritating. How did I do what? How did you kill those 7 commies? There wasn't a single bullet fired from your rifle. What? Come on, son. They were strewn all around you, each one killed by a sword stroke. And that, Mom, is the end of my story. It may have been the pain, or the blazing sun, or the chilling cold. I don't know, Mom. But there is one thing I am sure about. It happened. Love, your son, Michael. Michael, Michael of the morning, fresh core of heaven adorning, keep me safe today, and in time of temptation drive the devil away. We call on St. Michael the Archangel, as Prince of the heavenly host, to protect us from evil. His name is Hebrew for who is like God, which was the battle cry of the good angels when they cast the rebellious Lucifer and his followers into hell.
The Manual for Total Consecration to Mary. This book contains the readings and prayers for St. Louis de Montfort's 33 days of preparation for consecrating oneself to Jesus through Mary. This manual includes complete texts from Holy Scripture, the Imitation of Christ, Montfort's writings, and prayers used for total consecration, all in this one handy volume. The Slaves of the Immaculate Heart of Mary of St. Benedict Center are pleased to make this manual available for those committing themselves to Mary for the first time, or for those who wish to renew their consecration previously made. Available exclusively from St. Benedict Center. Go to stbenedict.com gift shop and order your copy of the Manual for the Total Consecration to Mary.
True Devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary by St. Louis de Montfort. Chapter 3. Wonderful Effects of this Devotion. My dear brother, writes the saint, be sure that if you are faithful to the interior and exterior practices of this devotion, the following effects will take place in your soul. First, knowledge and contempt of self. By the light which the Holy Ghost will give you through his dear spouse, Mary, you will understand your own evil, your corruption, and your incapacity for anything good. In consequence of this knowledge, you will despise yourself. You will think of yourself only with horror. You will regard yourself as a snail that spoils everything with its slime, or a toad that poisons everything with its venom, or as a spiteful serpent seeking only to deceive. In other words, the humble Mary will communicate to you a portion of her profound humility, which will make you despise yourself, despise nobody else, but love to be despised yourself. The second effect, participation in Mary's faith. Our Blessed Lady will give you also a portion of her faith, which was the greatest of all faiths that ever were on earth, greater than the faith of all the patriarchs, prophets, apostles, and saints put together. Now that she is reigning in heaven, she no longer exercises this faith, because she sees all things clearly in God by the light of glory. Nevertheless, with the consent of the Most High, in entering into glory, she did not lose her faith. She kept it for her faithful servants in the Church Militant. The more, then, that you gain the favor of that august princess and faithful virgin, the more you will act by pure faith, a pure faith which will make you care hardly at all about sensible consolations and extraordinary favors. A lively faith, animated by charity, which will enable you to perform all your actions from the motive of pure love. A faith firm and immovable as a rock, through which you will rest quiet and constant in the midst of storms and hurricanes. A faith active and piercing, which like a mysterious pass-key will give you entrance into all the mysteries of Jesus, into the last ends of man, and into the heart of God himself. A courageous faith, which will enable you to undertake and carry out without hesitation great things for God and for the salvation of souls. Lastly, a faith which will be your blazing torch, your divine life, your hidden treasure of divine wisdom, and your omnipotent arm, which you will use to enlighten those who are in the darkness of the shadow of death. to inflame those who are lukewarm and who have need of the heated gold of charity, to give life to those who are dead in sin, to touch and overthrow, by your meek and powerful words, the hearts of marble and the cedars of Lebanon, and finally, to resist the devil and all the enemies of salvation. The third effect, deliverance from scruples, cares, and fears. This mother of fair love will take away from your heart all scruple and all disorder of servile fear. She will open and enlarge it to run the way of her Son's commandments, with the holy liberty of the children of God. She will introduce into it pure love, of which she is the treasurer, so that you shall no longer be guided by fear as heretofore in your dealings with the God of charity, but by love alone. You will look upon him as your good Father, whom you will be incessantly trying to please, and with whom you will converse confidently, as a child with its tender father. If unfortunately you offend him, you will at once humble yourself before him. You will ask his pardon with great lowliness, but at the same time you will stretch your hand out to him with simplicity, and you will raise yourself up lovingly without trouble or disquietude, and go on your way to him without discouragement. The fourth effect, great confidence in God and Mary. Our Blessed Lady will fill you with great confidence in God and in herself. First, because you will not be approaching Jesus by yourself, but always by that good mother. Second, because as you have given her all your merits, graces, and satisfactions to dispose of at her will, she will communicate to you her virtues and will clothe you in her merits, so that you will be able to say to God with confidence, Behold, Mary, thy handmaid, be it done unto me according to thy word. Third, because as you have given yourself entirely to her, body and soul, she, who is liberal with the liberal, and more liberal even than the liberal, will in return give herself to you in a marvelous but real manner, so that you may say to her with assurance, I am thine, Holy Virgin, save me. Or, as I have said before with the beloved disciple, I have taken thee, O Holy Mother, for my own. You may also say with Saint Bonaventure, My loving and redeeming mistress, I will have confidence and will not fear, because you are my strength and my praise in the Lord. I am altogether yours, and all that I have belongs to you. And in another place, O glorious Virgin, blessed above all created things, I will put you as a seal upon my heart, because your love is as strong as death. Lord, my heart and my eyes have no right to extol themselves, or to be proud, or to seek great and wonderful things. Yet, even at that, I am not humble, but I have lifted up and encouraged my soul by confidence. I am like a child weaned from the pleasures of earth and resting on its mother's lap, and it is on that lap that all good things come to me. What will still further increase our confidence in her is that you will have less confidence in yourself. You have given her in trust all you have of good about you, that she may have it and keep it. And so all the trust you once had in yourself has become an increase of confidence in her, who is your treasure. Oh, what confidence and what consolation is this for a soul who can say that the treasure of God, where he was pleased to put all he had most precious, is his own treasure also. As the great St. Augustine reminds us, she is the treasure of the Lord.
Hi, this is Tom Price from EWTN saying thanks for listening to WQPH 89.3 FM, Catholic radio serving Shirley, Fitchburg, and the world.
This is Dr. Mark Rollo, Massachusetts physician, and these are reasons to reject physician-assisted suicide. Reason number 6. The so-called right to die will become a duty to die. Brittany Maynard was a young woman diagnosed with a brain tumor at age 29. She traveled to Oregon in 2014 to seek assisted suicide. She died from a lethal dose of a drug prescribed by an Oregon physician. This situation was exploited and sensationalized by the pro-assisted suicide organization Compassion and Choices and their allies in the mainstream media. As a result, many have heard about Brittany Maynard. Her story was spread widely in the media. She was on the cover of People magazine. On the contrary, not many have heard about Maggie Karner, Karner. She was a young woman who lived in Connecticut. She was diagnosed with a brain tumor around the same time as was Brittany Maynard. She said that stories like that of Brittany Maynard put pressure on people like her to comply with state-sanctioned suicide. The 2021 assisted suicide bill before the Massachusetts legislature is euphemistically called an act relative to end-of-life options. Call your state representative and state senator today at 617-722-2000. Tell them we already have end-of-life options. They are called hospice and palliative care. Tell them you want your doctor to continue to be a healer and comforter, not a killer.
On the WQPH Community Calendar.
Michael Petrosh of the Holy Face Devotion has been featured on WQPH, and he will be coming to the Fatima Shrine at 155 Washington Street in Brighton for a Holy Face Devotion talk. That will take place on Saturday, July 20th after the 10:30 a.m. Mass. Some of the topics will include chronology of the Holy Face, communism and abortion, practicing the Holy Face devotion, and veneration of the holy relics. He will also have a selection of the holy relics, including the first-class relic of Padre Pio and first-class relic of Saint Anne, mother of the BVM. If you would like more information about this, call Michael Petrosh. Contact him at holyfacerelic@gmail.com. HOLYFACERELIC@gmail.com.
When Our Lady appeared to the children of Fatima, one of the things she said to them every time she appeared is, I want you to come here on the 13th of each month. So I like to promote our candlelight processions at the Shrine of Our Lady of Fatima in Brighton on the 13th of each month from May through October at 8 p.m. We have Father Ed Riley who's coming, who's a chaplain of the World Apostolate of Fatima and a regular at the Shrine. So please join us, 8 p.m.
155 Washington Street, Brighton.
Ave Maria, I'm Father Elias, and I'm inviting you to join me on a Catholic pilgrimage to Japan in 2024. Come with me to visit and learn about the rich Catholic history of the land of the rising sun where St. Francis Xavier brought the faith. The persecution of the faith for over 250 years, the witness of the Japanese martyrs and saints, the story of the hidden Christians, St. Maximilian Kolbe's friary in Nagasaki, Mugenzi no Sono, the Garden of the Immaculate, and also we'll visit Holy Mary Canon of Hara Castle, the largest wooden statue of Our Lady in the world, the atomic bomb miracles, and of course Our Lady's apparition at Akita, a most relevant Marian apparition of our times. We'll also visit beautiful Mount Fuji, the atomic bomb museums in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ride the bullet train, and view the cherry blossoms in springtime. We will have daily Mass and Rosary, along with the Liturgy of the Hours and other devotional prayers. We will prepare for and make our consecration to the Blessed Virgin Mary at her apparition site in Akita. Because of an increased interest, we are offering both a spring and a fall pilgrimage in the year 2024. For more information, please go online to CanterburyPilgrimages.com, that is CanterburyPilgrimages.com, or call 800-653-0017. That again is 800-653-0017. Hope you can join us. Hope to see you there. Ave Maria.
Experience the incredible story of the woman who Time magazine named the most influential Catholic woman in the United States. Born Rita Rizzo, the future Mother Angelica grew up in a rough neighborhood in Canton, Ohio. Young Rita experienced abandonment, rejection, and heartache, but God touched her through a woman named Rhoda Wise. Encounter this amazing woman at the Mother Angelica Museum. Plan your visit today at MotherAngelicaMuseum.com.
Hello friends, this is Father Wade Menezes with the Fathers of Mercy and EWTN, and I want to thank you for listening to Queen of Perpetual Help Radio, WQPH 89.3 FM.
Our Quest for Happiness. We know who and what God is from what reason and particularly from what faith tell us about his nature and his perfections. There is still something very important to be known about him. He is a triune God. That means, briefly, that in the one God there are three divine persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Each person is true God, and yet there is but one God. We call this truth the mystery of the Blessed Trinity. This truth of the Trinity is the first, the deepest, and the most profound doctrine of our faith. It is first because it occupies the very center of our faith. Toward it all other truths converge. It is the keystone and crown, uniting all the other truths and illuminating them. If we examine the Creed, we will see that the doctrine of the Trinity is also the foundation of our faith, in somewhat the same sense that a steel framework is the supporting foundation of a skyscraper. The great Pope Leo XIII has said, "The mystery of the Trinity is the substance of the New Testament. It is the greatest of all mysteries, the source and head of all the others. The angels in heaven and men on earth have been created in order to know and contemplate it." The Holy Trinity is the deepest and most profound truth of our faith. It is a strict mystery. Indeed, it is the mystery of mysteries. A mystery, as we know from our catechism, is a truth which we cannot fully understand. A strict mystery is a truth which could not possibly be discovered by any created intelligence, and which, even after it has been made known by divine revelation, cannot be fully understood. We will have a fuller understanding of it in heaven, but we will never fully comprehend it. The doctrine of how there can be but one divine being, and at the same time three divine persons in that one being, is such a strict mystery. It cannot be clearly understood by us, even after God has made it known to us by revelation. Pope St. Hormisdas tells us this: "No creature, visible or invisible, can penetrate into the mystery of the Trinity." There is a story about St. Augustine which illustrates this point. One day, while he was walking along the seashore, thinking about the Trinity, he saw a child dipping seawater into a hole dug in the sand. When the bishop asked him what he was doing, the boy replied that he was emptying the entire sea into the hole. The saint laughed gently and told the child that he was trying to do the impossible. The child, or angel, is said to have answered that it would be easier to do that than it would be to understand the infinitely deep mystery of the Trinity. The fact that the Trinity is a strict mystery and therefore above and beyond the power of our finite minds is no source of difficulty for a person who has faith. He runs into as many mysterious matters even in subjects of far less importance than religion. Who can explain the precision and regularity of God's great clockwork of the sky, the sun, the moon, the planets in their orbits? Exactly what is life? Electricity? What is sound or color? We cannot explain the fundamental mysteries of hundreds of interesting things with which we come in contact every day. If we cannot understand these little mysteries of created things, it stands to reason that there should be truths about the Creator which are infinitely beyond and above our understanding. The familiar story about St. Patrick illustrates this. When St. Patrick revealed the mystery of the Trinity to the pagans of Ireland, they were angered and demanded that he prove that God is one in nature, but three in persons. St. Patrick was at a loss for a few moments until he spied a shamrock growing near. He picked it, and holding it up, asked if he held 1 or 3 leaves. "If it is 1 leaf," he said, "why does it have 3 lobes? If it is 3 leaves, why does it have 1 stem?" The pagans could not answer. "If you cannot understand such a simple mystery as this," St. Patrick exclaimed, "how do you expect to understand such a profound mystery as the Trinity?" St. Patrick won the day and the hearts and souls of the Irish. At the same time, although this profound mystery is incomprehensible, that is, completely above and beyond our limited minds, it is not contrary to reason, as we shall presently see. We might feel tempted to say that if we cannot clearly understand the mystery of the Trinity, what is the use of knowing it at all? What difference does it make in our life of faith how many persons there are in God? We will point out the answers to these questions. First, To know the existence of the Trinity and the place it occupies in our faith is in itself a great deal. It helps us understand the greatness of God. Man's mind has discovered many wonderful things and has invented marvels that cause astonishment. But here, in the presence of the great God, man sees and feels his insignificance and senses the august majesty of the divine being. The knowledge of the Trinity prepares the mind for other important mysteries of our holy faith, especially for the mysteries of the Incarnation and the Redemption. By showing us how divine love unites the persons of the Blessed Trinity, it gives us a model for the love that should unite us to one another and to our triune God. Although we cannot understand the mystery itself, we can learn many profitable things about it. In truth, the doctrine of the Trinity is a fountainhead of wonderful knowledge which can be plumbed ever deeper and deeper by study, prayer, and meditation. Such knowledge enriches our faith, encourages our hope, and increases our love.
When we are in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament, we do not take sufficient account of what it cost our Lord to descend so low. He was obliged to leave the bosom of his Father, where he was in God, to come down to earth and not to be received here, to take refuge in a stable and to escape death only by flight. He was obliged after 30 years of a laborious and hidden life, after 3 years employed in evangelizing the people and doing them good, and receiving in return calumnies, outrages, ignominy, and death, to survive by the institution of the Eucharist, in order to remain in the midst of the men who had treated him so unworthily. And from that time, O miracle of love, what horrors has he not been obliged to submit to? The very first time that he celebrated the Eucharist, he was buried alive in company of the devil, in a stained conscience, in the soul of Judas. Since then, to what profanations, to what indignities has he not been subjected? The heretic denies him, the bad Christian is wanting in respect, the impious man blasphemes him. O Lord, how dearly thy love costs thee. Take thy flight once more to heaven, and free thyself from so many outrages. No, I will not. I love mankind too much to separate myself from them. Rather than deprive one single soul of the happiness of receiving and possessing me, I will submit to all kinds of ingratitude and all kinds of profanations. We must make reparation for all these evils by fervent, honorable amends to the Blessed Sacrament. Offer it in expiation of all our reverence, all the homage of the angels and the saints, all our actions and our life itself. Protest that it would be a happiness to us to shed our blood to spare it the least offense, or to repair it. And finally, live today in a more holy manner than usual. Visit the Blessed Sacrament with more love. Communicate henceforth with more fervor. Assist at the Holy Sacrifice more piously and more frequently.
From the Housetops is produced by the Slaves of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, Still River, Massachusetts.